halfway there.
Comes out your son, you burn the swine when no want you shine. The tree of life, them no want you climb, cause them heart no kind. Comes, I say them heart no kind. Buxton Massive, Kidaki, read that.
Never joke, never joke, never joke. Oh, money, never money, never money, money, never money, money, I know what you can even money, money, never money, never money, money, never money, money, you can keep, you can even money. When you've been up for a bum, you know been tell me money. Now because your money done, you come with conniving money. When you had your pocket full, you know been tell me money. Now because your money done, you hustle for tell me money. Yes, money, never money, never money, money, never money, money. Now know what you conniving money. Neighbor, neighbor, joker. Neighbor, neighbor, joker. Neighbor, neighbor, joker. That's all the money that me work for. A 2 pound note and a guilder piece. A 2 pound note and a guilder piece. A 2 pound note and a guilder piece. This is all the money that me work for. I said money, neighbor, money, neighbor, money, money, neighbor, money, money. Now I know what you can have in money. Oh, Joseph.
Well, I invoke the WPA's position that we are engaging in civil disobedience and non-cooperation with the government. And on that grounds, I refuse to participate in the interview. The question in struggle, is not personal. Whatever sacrifice as a political activist or a political leader you have to make for your people, you have to make it.
Guyana and Guyanese, at home and abroad. Tune in to Guyanese Morning Time, hosted by Kadaki Amsterdam, where the sun always shines. Guyanese Morning Time, the people calling Guyanese Morning Time. Rhythm, rhythm, Guyanese Morning Time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again, Guyanese Morning Time. The people calling Guyanese Morning Time. Rhythm, rhythm, Guyanese Morning Time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again. We rise up early morning watching Comes TV, where wisdom and knowledge, yes, it is the key. Exposing corruptions over land and sea, where the wicked politicians they try to trick me. Guyana is a land for everybody. With 6 races should live in harmony. Is one set of people getting aisle money. Is one set of people doing the thievery. Guyanese Morning Time. The people calling Guyanese Morning Time. Rhythm, rhythm, Guyanese Morning Time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again, Guyanese Morning Time. The people calling Guyanese Morning Time. Rhythm, rhythm, Guyanese Morning Time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again. This is a program that you all can see, sharing your views and your integrity. Like it, comment and share it all around. Pass it to your neighbor, safe and sound. A sad situation going on in this town. The voice of the people is getting trampled down. Out of the mouths of babes and sucklings, with Jah as ordained me to sing. I sing Guyanese morning time. The people calling Guyanese morning time. Rhythm, Guyanese morning time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again, Guyanese morning time. The people calling Guyanese morning time. Rhythm, Guyanese morning time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again, fooling the people. You're promoting evil. Stop lying to the people. You are a part of the cycle. Stop fooling people. You're promoting evil. Stop lying to the people. You are a part of the cycle. I say Guyanese morning time. The people calling Guyanese morning time. Rhythm, Guyanese morning time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again, Guyanese morning time. The people calling Guyanese morning time. Rhythm, Guyanese morning time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again. They got Breakford, Bork and Mark Benchcop. David Hines and Kadaki Amsterdam. Sherrod Duncan, Nigel London. Normal Brown and Gavin Matthews. Big up Paslow, Poor People Governor. Simona Brooms, Robin Simpson. Hampton Green and Winston Jordan. And yes, we can go right on and on. Guyanese morning time. The people calling Guyanese morning time. Rhythm, Guyanese morning time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again, Guyanese morning time. The people calling Guyanese morning time. Rhythm, Guyanese morning time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again.
The relatives and friends of young Wyndham Bacchus, they deserve justice. The family, the relatives and friends of our in Boston, they deserve justice. The family, the relatives and friends of Peter Headley, they deserve justice.
And so when we say that Guyana is an apartheid state, we have the evidence to show.
else each and every day I rise to see the sunshine and breathe another breath of fresh air and get to do that's what I love. Make the PPP uncomfortable. Hey, work for the betterment of this society, work for the betterment of individuals, work for the betterment of the people in our communities and in our homes. Good morning! How was your yesterday? I hope you had a good yesterday. I hope you had a wonderful last night. You rested well and you recuperated. What about extracurricular activities? Yeah, those are important too, you know, for mental health and physical health and so on, you know. You have to take care of yourself. Don't let the stresses of life kill you out. I'm begging y'all, because we need y'all. We need every vote. Every vote must count. Right? So, what are we talking about this morning? We have lots of things to talk about. Not necessarily their business, but our business. I have a heavy heart this morning. Really, really heavy. I noticed, I saw in my messages, I think last evening, that Channel 9 is up for sale. 6 million US. Am I right? Yeah, 6 million US, I think. Equates to what, 1.2 billion Guyana dollar or something like that. Just yesterday, Dr. Hines was talking about Channel 9 being the only option, the only broadcast station that the opposition has access to. And then a few hours after, you learned that your only pillar is about to be cut down. How do you react to that? We'll talk about that this morning. And what do you suggest can be the solution to Channel 9? How do you suggest we hold on to Channel 9? I have some thoughts in my head, but we will talk about that. I want to talk, though, I want to start by, the lines are going to be opened up early this morning. Remember I said to you previously that, you know, we're heading for another year, and so we'll tweak here and we'll tweak there. Yesterday, Dr. Hines mentioned for a fact that the international agencies made several recommendations for strengthening the electoral apparatus in this country. And the PPP only chose to make a few changes. I dare call them cosmetic changes. And the majority of the changes have not been made. My question to you is, what should be done to effect those changes? What should be done to get the PPP to make those changes? What are your thought processes on that? I would like to hear you. But I want to say this. The fact that the changes were recommended by the international agencies, friends of the PPP, quite frankly, will legitimize any action, I want to say legal action, that the citizens take to force the PPP to make those changes. Because these are not changes that you can say are instigated by local politicians, or this will not be a protest for a change that a local politician woke up and believed that he or she wants. But these are changes that result from a study of the system by international arbiters. And so one can argue that the recommended changes are justifiable because, as we will say, the people who recommended them are people who do not, in uplifting commas, have horses in the race. They just want to see good governance and democracy. They want to see fair elections, and they believe people are entitled to fair elections. And so they assess the system and say, well, if you're going to have fair elections, then these are some of the things which must be put in place. And since these are recommendations of impartial people, impartial arbiters, then I think the citizens will be justified demanding the implementation of those recommendations.
Dr. Hines did say in instances like those, you have to get a political solution. But I think sometimes we talk over the head of our citizens. What is a political situation? A political solution? A political solution for me is people taking to the streets or in front GCOM or in front of the agencies that are responsible for the electoral apparatus and demanding the implementation of these changes. That's a political solution for me. Because when the people take to the streets in their masses and make demands and hamburg government businesses, etc., then the government has no option but to call on the opposition to sit and discuss the implementation of those changes. How do we move forward? We have an impasse here. How do we move forward? The people are on the streets. They say they're not moving until we implement these changes. Come and sit and let us discuss what shape and form these changes will take. But to just sit idly by and wait for the politicians to call each other to the table, it will not happen. And so those changes will not happen. It is citizens who have to take the bull by the horn. We have a strange democracy. We have a democracy where citizens await instructions from political leaders, as against citizens giving instructions to political leaders. And I'm propagating, I'm saying this morning that we as citizens have to change that approach to our governance. We have to give politicians instructions. They are our servants. They work for us, whether in the opposition or whether in government, in the administration. We have to give them instructions. When the Lindeners, and by the way, it's another anniversary of that Linden murder by policemen led by Akins. Right? When the PPP wanted to institute increased charges on electricity in Linden, the Lindeners determined that they were going to fight against it. And they started a protest. They started a resistance against that imposition. And hundreds or thousands of Lindeners were on the streets. And the politicians crawled to Linden. They crawled to Linden, first and foremost, to try to steal a limelight. Because politicians are some strange beings, you know. They look for every opportunity where they could get some publicity. A lot of them don't want to do the work, but they want to take the praises. I know they don't like when I say these things, but I am as honest as they can come. I speak truth. God, I speak truth. And so when the Lindeners were out there in their numbers, a lot of politicians suddenly realized, hey, something big going on in Linden, we got to go by. And they turned up. And the Lindeners were giving them instructions. That's how citizens have to behave in defense of their democracy. Not sit and wait for politicians to give them instructions, because hear me, the only instructions you get from politicians are instructions which will benefit them. Any instruction to benefit you is most likely going to affect a politician, and so they're not going to give you that instruction. I said yesterday the unions have so far failed to combine their forces against this government. Why? Because some of them are in bed with the government, and therefore will not want to jeopardize their benefits. While there are others who are not in bed with the government, but are concerned as well about their benefits. So it leaves the workers at their wits' end. How do we deal with what is happening? How do we confront this government and this salary situation? How do we deal with this government, with this oppression? Because our leaders are not backing us. Our leaders are not giving us instructions. Our leaders are not calling strikes. There's something that is called a wildcat strike, where the workers themselves go on strike. And then their representatives play catch up. Citizens have to understand, we have to understand, that it is against our own benefit to sit and wait on the leaders. They ain't gonna do nothing for us. They're waiting for us to do for them. They're waiting for us to go to the polls and place our X's so that they can enjoy the good life in Parliament or wherever they enjoy it. We can change that, man. I'm positive we can change that. And I'm saying we ought to change that. What will we do? What are we prepared to do to ensure that the necessary changes are made to the electoral machinery so that Guyanese can get free, fair, and credible elections? Some people will tell me that free, fair, and credible elections, that's just an idea. Because at the end of the day, Uncle Sam decides who sits in the seat of government. But again, if citizens are willing to stand and fight for what they justly deserve, it becomes harder for Uncle Sam to dictate who sits in the seat of government. But when we're lackadaisical, when we're lethargic, when we just sit back and say, oh, Uncle Sam, come help us, then we are allowing Uncle Sam to do whatever Uncle Sam thinks is best. Not for us, but Uncle Sam's own self-interest. We have to come out of that malaise. We got to come out of that state of laziness, if I can call it that, and carry the fight. I do not see, I still do not see, I don't believe there can be any legitimate pushback against citizens fighting for the implementation of those electoral changes or those changes to the electoral machinery which were recommended. Let us start to strategize. How will we fight? I did say for quite a while, or in recent times, once I'm done celebrating my 50th, I'm ready to be on the protest line again. Who are my soldiers? Who are my lieutenants? Who are the backers? Get your gears in order. Because sooner rather than later, I expect to be out there. And I hope that when I go out there, we're going out with numbers, large numbers. We're going to protest no rape. It's unfortunate that people can put money over the dignity of their children and, the safety of their children and all of that. But it has happened. What people say about Ghana fast, I don't know if I can turn that back. But I know if we have a society that functions on good governance and the rule of law, any other such rape will be dealt with and should be dealt with condignly. So let us fight. I'm prepared to go there and fight for the rule of law and good governance. Start putting your minds there. Start thinking. Put yourself in a state of readiness. I'll be calling on you soon enough. Run the lane, good morning. Emily Gerard, good morning. Ibon Lamy, good morning. My Ride or Die is out of the country. Rasta man, I know you're listening to the program, big up yourself. We have to go out there in our numbers. Robin Simon, start readying the troops. Apostle London, get your troops in line. Simona Booms, let us all coordinate and go out there and chant down Babylon. Because we have to get the changes we demand. Otherwise, we ain't making sense. You ain't got economic power. You ain't got political power. You're just there. You're about like Deborah. You're going to trample it down. We can't afford that. Now let me talk quickly about Channel 9. Let me first make my disclaimer. I do not know the kind of business that HBTV9, it was Hoyt Blackman Television 9. That is what I know it as. I don't know if that has changed. I do not know the business structure of HBTV9. So I can't say if it's a partnership or if it's a family-owned business. But I got the impression over the years that it is family-owned. And I've taken note of its struggles for survival. It has had a long struggle for survival. Both in terms of getting access to a, what we call frequency to expand its reach. And both in terms of access, getting clientele to remain economically viable. Because let's talk this. It's a competitive world. And advertisers will go to television stations and radio stations. They will necessarily go to media, where they're going to get a bang for the buck. They look at reach. The first thing they look at, what's your reach? What's your market share? And so they would most likely advertise with people who have a bigger market share than others. And since Channel 9 doesn't have the reach, or as far as I understand, they don't have the reach, like some of the others, like It's and Bamsies and so on, Hips and Bamsies and so, they don't have the reach. Then naturally, they will come up against serious competition for that advertising dollar. The other thing is, politics influences everything in this country. And the big businessmen with big, deep advertising pockets are usually closely aligned with the PPP. And so again, if they withhold those advertising dollars from Channel 9, if they withhold those advertising dollars from Channel 9, then you see a challenge here again. And so in this competitive world of media, they're also being challenged by a social media presence of folks like myself. And so in this competitive world, there's no doubt that Channel 9 is under tremendous pressure to attract the advertising dollar to start with. And since these businesses depend on the advertising dollars for survival, it naturally follows that if you can't attract the advertising dollar, you can't survive. At least in your current state. And I'm assuming here that Channel 9 is a family business. Have we considered, have the folks over at Channel 9 considered making Channel 9 what we call it, a partnership, a public limited company or something to that extent, whereby citizens can buy shares which will form the capital base of Channel 9. Huh? Has that been a consideration? This is we thing. Dr. Hensey said yesterday is the only thing we got to turn to in terms of broadcast. And so I'm proposing that we get together and bail we thing out. But how are we going to bail we thing out? Are the current managers and owners of Channel 9 willing to sit down with a group of African Guyanese business people and say, listen, we are willing to sell you shares in this business. Let us become shareholders. As the current management or owners of Channel 9 sat down and decided, listen, we are going to reach out to the African Guyanese and Guyanese in the diaspora communities and ask them to invest in this business in exchange for shares, so that we can perhaps upgrade our equipment so we get far to reach. I don't know if equipment is a problem or it's simply a case of bandwidth. Frequency to go as far as everybody else. But what options are open to Channel 9 to save that station? Those are the things I'm trying to find out by talking about it. Have our political leaders, the likes of Aubrey Norton, Professor David Hines, Lincoln Lewis, Eric Phillips, Dion Abrams, the head of all of these black organizations all over this country, have they stopped to see this as a crisis that will affect African Guyanese? Have they called upon each other to have a quick caucus and decide how they can step in to rescue Channel 9? If they haven't, I'm suggesting it. That is why I'm calling their names. Because like I said, a lot of times black leaders drop the ball. And we can't afford to drop this ball. We cannot afford to let Channel 9 find itself in the hands of those who are not like us, nor care for us. 6 million US. The Mohammeds can buy Channel 9 today. Will they adopt broadcast policies that will be beneficial to the African Guyanese community? Will they maintain Channel 9 as a broadcast entity? Or maybe they want to buy just for the land? And this is a hypothetical, right? I'm not saying that the Mohammeds have an interest in it. But I'm saying, given the fact that some people call the Mohammeds tycoon, a tycoon or tycoons in this country, it means that they have money like that. So they could quickly mop it up off the market. They have a lot of land sharks out there who will find 6 million US quickly. Because that is prime spot where Channel 9 is. If you look at that area, you see that I think they have what they have there now? Burger King and all kinds of things I think they got on the stretch there. KFC is on the opposite side of Channel 9. And they have all of those new food places on the same side of Channel 9. Savon's has a modern day office, I think, there. Carcare Enterprise, perhaps, I'm not sure. But it's prime spot. And so someone of the land talk will say 6 million US is joke in my book. I can buy it. I can tear down Channel 9 and I can put up what I want. Maybe a multi-complex. But allowing Channel 9 to go into the hands of those who don't look like you and I, those who don't have our interests at heart, be beneficial? I don't think so. And so the African Guyanese leaders, both local and in the diaspora, ought to quickly get together and discuss this crisis as I see it, and make a proposal to the owners of Channel 9. In the US, there's BET. I think it's called the Black Entertainment Trust. Can we have a similar arrangement here in Guyana, for the owning of that media house? Can we call on our brothers and sisters internationally, Black Caucus and so on, to help us to retain ownership of that media house? We have to find a solution. It will be an indictment against every black man, every African Guyanese. For Channel 9 be sold. For Channel 9 to be sold. It's an indictment. I remember when we were talking about oil blocks. I think it was the same Shell Mohammed who said, what black people talking about oil block? I offer some of them partnership to come on board to do the show-based thing and put all the major African Guyanese businessmen together. They couldn't come up with the capital to invest in show-base. In other words, we are still playing in shallow water while everybody else is in deep water. Individually, our capital might be small. But if we put it together, the possibility is it will become big enough to achieve one major goal. And in this instance, that major goal has to be to retain ownership of Channel 9 and its broadcast license. Broadcast license don't come easy in this country. Frequency on which the broadcast doesn't come easy in this country. And so we ought to do our utmost not to lose it. Not to sit back and watch it go into the hands of our oppressors. That's what I'm begging you this morning. Let us explore the possibility of crowdfunding to rescue Channel 9 and keep it in the corner of the African Guyanese community. It's 5 minutes past 8 o'clock. Our lines are open. Let me hear your thoughts on these matters. Let me hear how you recommend, what are your recommended solutions or approach to finding solutions for these matters. I once again want to invite you tomorrow to join, today is what? Thursday? Yes, join us tomorrow at Club Twilight for karaoke. If you feel like going to karaoke or you want a relaxing Friday afternoon, come to Club Twilight. Because you know where your money is being spent and you know it will aid your people. I guarantee you that. Good? Caller, thank you for holding. You're live.
Yes, thank you for taking the call, Mr. Amsterdam. Good morning, all Guyanese, and good morning, everyone at the Guyanese diaspora. On the matter of Channel 9, while we are putting suggestions, and now that Channel 9 is up for sale, in a time where we have the Super Communications Highway, an alternative to that, one alternative, I've got two or three. The first one is, hopefully, we can begin to sponsor villages. And that's what those of us who are from, every Guyanese here is from a village. And there's several of us from respective villages. For example, Den Amstel or Ithaca or Hopetown or etc., Buxton. So, especially on the Essequibo Coast and stuff like that, Linden. we can, in our own village groups, sponsor the village for internet. All right? We can sponsor our village for internet, and, you know, we can flesh out or find out who is interested from Buxton, who is interested from Linden, who is interested from Dartmouth, Essequibo, or 53 in Quarantine, 53 Village. And we can sponsor our village and get the kind of signals that would reach a good distance, to the left, to the right, at least a mile distance. Now we have routers, antennas that can amplify now, that can reach that distance. So we put it at, let's say, someone we know in the village, and we put it at their house. So we could figure out the rest on that. So we can provide the kind of reach. Because yesterday I heard Dr. Hines talking about the reach. This morning you talking about the reach, Kadaki.
Kofi, let me inform you that the reach has a lot to do with the frequency with which you have been allocated, number one. Right? Number two.
I'm talking about internet.
Oh, we're talking internet.
As an option, as a first option. I'm coming around to the TV, to the analog broadcast. I'm coming around there.
Go ahead.
That's why I said this TV station has been put up for sale at a time where we have options. If this was being sold 40 years ago, we wouldn't have these same options. We'll be dead in the water. But we can transition now. So in the interim, or to augment or to supplement TV signal in addition to internet reach. So while we are sending stuff on the TV, as we normally do, as Shama is on internet, as well as Shama is on with Mr. Green there on the TV. Okay, is on internet, getting a feedback. So we can sponsor internet in our villages to get the reach, because Buxton Morning, Guyanese Morning Time has a problem of getting reach in some areas. Also, a lot of people have phones in Quarantine, in Essequibo, in Linden, but they don't have internet access. So if you're from Linden or Dartmouth or Quarantine and you want to sponsor our village, we can sponsor our village and provide that hotspot for our village. You see? So these are things in which we can extend our reach, because we are in the information age. Next point. On Blackman TV, Channel 9 on Mandela's Avenue, Epology, and I'm piggybacking on some of the suggestions Mr. Amsterdam just made. Epology can come on board, because Epology would need, this falls in right in the agenda for Epology. This come under the premise, the whole idea of Epology. Okay? For African Guyanese, okay? African people having a platform, just like BET, to send out their whatever they want to send out. I don't have to spell that further. But the United Nations has TV equipment which they give out in the United Nations. I spoke about this about a year ago. The United Nations has a broadcast spectrum and a broadcast agenda for democracy. And they often give out equipment as well. And they can also help to finance So this financing will be separate from the financing that Apology is already getting from the United Nations. But I'm just showing the framework in which Apology can approach the United Nations. In that framework. Because for education, they have a channel there, a whole concept. For education, humanitarian purposes, all of those things fit into the fourth estate. For spreading democracy and spreading the whole mission for humanity. That's the same mission for Apology. So they complement each other. Now, Dr. Hines spoke about, so I don't have to say any further. People who are listening know what they could do. Mr. Alexander know where he can do. And the people who Mr. Amsterdam just suggested can work together. Eric Phillips, Coffee 250, Rickford Bourke, maybe Mr. Harmon, because Mr. Harmon knew exactly the difficulties that we had when we were campaigning for the PNC, trying to get signal and broadcast signal, and he promised that he will do something when he got into government. He didn't. Maybe this is his opportunity to do so now. Okay? Dr. Hines talked about change. The architecture. Keyword, the architecture. And yesterday we talked about part of the architecture for elections. I like to say, very short and sweet. I would like to see how we can change this architecture. And I don't see how we are claiming to be facilitating universal suffrage, but we are stymieing universal suffrage in the way in which we choose who goes to Parliament. It can't be that we, the people, are voting individually and then someone else is choosing